Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. Super glad you tuned in on this fine Monday as we're leaning in towards the holiday season. The days are getting more and more short, and for some people, perhaps a little bit frantic. So, what we need you to do right now is take a big old breath, grab yourself a beverage, and sit back or pull over to the side of the road and enjoy today's program on Act 3. With me in the Zoom booth today is Carrie Marshall. She is one of the most lovely people on the planet, working towards incredibly good causes in the guides of Fairy Goddess Mothers of Gabriola, a calendar that we spoke about that is a wonderful fundraiser. And we're here to talk a little bit more about it today. Welcome to the program, Carrie. Great to have you. How are you?
I'm great, Kathy. Thank you so much for having me on the program. We just love your show. It's fabulous.
I'm so glad. It's wonderful. I'm glad that you do. Thanks for tuning in, for all of your support as well. Listen, for the listeners that didn't catch the previous program about this particular calendar and the fundraiser, I wonder if you could just break it down for our listeners so they know what we're talking about today.
Sure, that sounds great. So we have produced a calendar which has over 50 women who are 50 years old in it, and they are in the buff, but you don't see anything.
They're artfully disguised as fairies, actually.
As fairies, exactly. And it's a wonderful thing. We were inspired by a good friend of mine, and she was the person who got this all started on Gabriola Island. And she managed to get all 50 people, all 50 women involved. And unfortunately, she did pass on September the 4th. Her name was Dorothy Angst.
Yeah.
And so we give her a lot of credit for getting everything going. And we Fairy Goddess Mothers have decided to move this calendar forward and sell it for charity. So that's what we're doing.
And it's not just for any old charity. I think you've got like a dozen different agencies that you're giving the money to. Do you happen to know what some of the agencies are off the top of your head?
We have so many agencies. I have not yet gotten the list right, but I'm going to try it again for you today, Kathy. It's on the front of the calendar, and it's everything from Gabriola Trails. So we have a trails charity, something called Cats Alive, which helps cats on the island. Another one called Pet Friends. Our auxiliary, our Gabriola Health Auxiliary is in there. And we have what we call Growls, which is the Gabriola Rescue Association. They've been doing a lot of work with wildlife on the island. We have the Haven Society, which is in Nanaimo, an excellent women's shelter.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a very good women's shelter. And we also have the Gabriola Arts Council and now I'm down to my last few here.
You're doing great because, there are so many charitable organizations on here. And when you think about a calendar, there's 12 months and it looks like you basically have a charity by the month that you're working on. Although it's all coming together, it's basically, you've got a number of them for that. What inspired this brilliant piece of art?
Well, that was Dorothy. She was at, and I was not at this ceremony, but she was at a full moon ceremony with a number of women, and she had been talking to her sister, Patty Matchell, about this as well. And this was her big idea, that all of a sudden she had this thought, because of course she was at a ceremony in front of the water, Gabriola moonlight.
Yes.
It was gorgeous. And she thought, wouldn't it be cool if we took calendars, like calendar girls, of us in the buff, and we could get all of these people on the island to do it, and we could do it all for charity. And so it was her idea completely. She put it out to a few ladies who kind of went, well, maybe, sure. but Dorothy did everything. Like she just went gangbusters on things she wanted to do. And so she started calling people and finding sites. And I was there at the first shoot, and it was super fun. I wasn't in it, my wife was, but we just took it. My wife got naked and went up a tree.
And did she find it intimidating to do that, or was she like, how did that roll?
My wife Tammy is one of those people who will sit around in the buff any chance she gets a chance.
Yeah.
She's just been a very casual person that way, and she's quite confident. So really, she was thrilled to be asked, and it was her and Dorothy and one other lady on the first shot, which was shot in September,
Yeah.
and it was in a public park, and there I was one of the lookouts. We had lookouts on the path, and Tammy was pretty good with it. It ended up that she held a folk life poster at her chest, and it ended up as advertisement in Folk Life magazine, which is one of our local publications.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I have a few friends that are actually in the calendar as well, and they had shared with me that for them it was incredibly empowering. It was not about it's not about standing naked anywhere. It's about honoring our bodies as over the age of 50. All of the participants were over the age of 50 who had lived in extraordinary lives, and their bodies were reflections of those extraordinary lives. And so it was so incredible that Dorothy, a tiny little angel of a woman herself, a little minx of a fairy, was able to inspire so many women to be more comfortable in their jeans.
absolutely. And you know what? There were tons of women who were totally great with it and probably didn't even think twice. But I think there was a huge amount of women who it was a really big moment for, and a big forward movement for. And I know I was one of those. I said yes, and I thought I don't know what's going to happen when we get there. I'll just figure this out. But I was
Oh,
not
for
really prepared.
sure.
But the other women who were there, I was in January and I was in May, and the other women who were there were just so confident and they were so free with it. And I didn't expect to have that sense of exhilaration. I don't know if you've ever done something really cool or interesting in public, but you do get this really big sense of freedom and enjoyment. And I think you can see that on the women's faces. I think that's part of why you see such joy, because there's a freedom in doing this. It was not necessarily something that these women were allowed to do when they were young. So
Yeah, and whether it
pretty
was,
exciting.
and to do it together. I mean, to have several women together through
Mhm.
the trees, on the beach, in the sand, really frolicking in the weather and the beauty of nature on Gabriola Island. In my mind, this calendar, I just received mine for listeners the other day. I'm going to actually, um, as this show also appears on YouTube, I am going to hold it up for you so you can sort of see what
Ah,
it
yes.
is. But I want to really pay mine to Dorothy, who by
Mhm.
all ways was a woman of incredible courage,
Yeah.
surviving some of the most difficult physical challenges that a woman can bear at the very best. So I just wonder if it's okay with you. I just want to read the honor that is at the back of this, because I think it really brings light to the empowerment of women. It says the calendar is dedicated in memory of Dorothy Angst, the one who started it all. Dorothy lost her older sister, Libby, about a month before she passed. Talking about Libby's plans, which would now be unfulfilled, her older sister, Patty, said, "Life is what happens while you're making plans." Dorothy replied, "I don't make plans, I do it." That is how you could sum up this amazing woman. Although a lot of planning and thought went into the many projects over the years, she certainly did it in so many ways. Her absence is greatly felt by her family, her friends, and her community. She was a shining star, and her light lit up others. Her wings definitely held up so many. May the fairy goddess mothers of Gabriola continue to forge community in her honor. When I just read the testament of the back of this calendar and I see the joy that was in her eyes, you know, I think it encompassed all 50 women who participated. What do you think that their takeaway was as they were processing the idea of being part of a legacy like this?
I can really only speak for myself, but I think that all of us, having lost Dorothy so soon after the calendar was shot, I think there was a lot of shock and surprise, even though we knew she was sick.
Yeah.
because she was just one of those women that no matter what was going on with her, she was just like a little engine. She
Yeah.
just kept thinking of new things and having ideas and following through with them, not just an idea person, a doer, as it says in the memorial. So I
Yeah.
think in certain ways, we were so, I was so thrilled to be part of it, and I know a lot of women were, and also kind of surprised and shocked by her loss.
Yeah.
But a lot of us have put it into all of this marketing and all of the work that was left when she passed, which was, her sister Patty did all the Photoshop for, she added the wings and the flare on a lot of these pictures, not on all of them, but on a lot of them, and she did it for Dorothy. So we everybody basically, we went around a circle at one point, and people were like, "Why did you do this?" And I think at first they might have done it for whatever reasons, but I know all of this marketing and distribution is being done for Dorothy.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody said that they were doing this for Dorothy. So
Yeah, and it's really a testament to her success overall in the putting it together. And she also had another artist working along with her, Danielle Noel, who
yes,
is very well known in community on Gabriel Island, as becoming quite the international uh,
yes,
artist and becoming very well known for some of her pieces. I believe that Danielle was actually the background of her work was at the Country Music Awards a few years back, or last year, perhaps it was even. So she's really well known, and the whole piece kind of all ties together. It's not about a bunch of naked women. It doesn't even look like that, right? It's this glorious childlike joy that comes out of each individual woman's presence. And they're in the trees and they're dressed with wings and flowers, and simply a brilliant and beautiful piece of art all year round, for sure. What else does the calendar contain?
the calendar actually contains some different herbs of the month with their
Mhm.
pictures, and so a lot of local herbs to the Nanaimo area. It also has gardening tips every month, and it has the moon cycles, as well as a gorgeous insert by one of our local artists, Carol Weaver, who does all the different moon cycles in pinks and purples. It's really very pretty. It's frameable in its own right. These really are frameable pictures. We were very lucky to have excellent photographers, wonderful artists to, they didn't touch us up, but they certainly gave us a little more magic. Uh, so that was wonderful.
Yeah, I love the magic because that's really what it looks like to me, as magic. It's like you can see that these are women who are healthy, strong, capable women. But then we're not models, right? They're not models that are coming out of any of the fashion magazine. Nothing has been, fussed up that way.
Nothing's been touched up.
Like, it's complete with all the gloriousness that a woman should be. When I look at the calendar, I feel so very empowered for the people that are in it, but also for myself, right? It's like, why do people have such a shame base about our bodies when we've gone through so much?
That is a really good question. And you know what? One of the things that we're finding are coming out of this calendar is there's a lot of conversations happening about healthy aging. And
Yes.
this is what like a number of us women got together. And this was the topic because we had one woman who was talking about she spent time with her adult daughters and daughters-in-law. And they all were so thrilled. This calendar was it was like a jumping off point to talk about, wow, isn't it great that you're aging and you look great and you look wonderful, and we have a lot to look forward to. And I think that there's been a lot of years of advertising about looking younger and not looking your age, so that's a lot to kind of backpedal from, and to say no, you can have a wonderful, healthy, fabulous life no matter what you're doing at any age.
Well,
So
whatever your size is. So it's not
exactly.
about being like a size 7 when you're 60 years old. It's about being a wonderfully robust, carefully thought through human who's done amazing things with their lives, right? And amazing things could be something so spectacular as raising children.
Exactly. And we've had so many positive like so much positive feedback from women. I have been at the local farmers market on Saturdays. So I'm hearing all kinds of things from all kinds of people and from men as well. Lots of, lots of people are appreciative of the concept and of the thought. I had one woman who looked at the front of the calendar, which has some ladies' bums on them, kind of a little bit filtered. You can't quite tell at
There's the
first.
stream across of
And
buttocks.
she wasn't from Gabriola. She was visiting and she said, I love this. And she said, because my bum looks like this. And she said,
Yes.
and so does everyone's.
It's so true.
So, yeah. And she did her round around the whole farmer's market and came back to buy one because she was just so thrilled to support this concept that, we look great.
And we do. I'm sorry, I'm almost 60, and I think that, I've got all kinds of plugs and rumps and bings and bangs and bangs and blah 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 all over my body, and I've earned every bloody one of them.
That's right. That's very true. And it's a different message than necessarily what we've heard. And
Yes.
it's a better message to hear. My own daughter's 24 and said to me just the other day that she was proud of what I was doing and that she thought this was going to be easier for her to get older now.
Wow, what a
Yeah,
compliment. What
it
that's
was. It was.
wow, to hear that from your daughter.
Yes, yes, it was a wonderful moment for me because I've always said, "Oh, I am who I am. My body is what it is." But if everyone else isn't telling your child that message, if that's not what they're hearing on the screen or on everything else, then they're not sure who to believe. So it's wonderful when they look at you and go, "You know what? It doesn't really matter what size I am or where I am here. You aging beautifully gives me something to look forward to."
Do you think that our society is ready for that conversation?
I think a lot of people are having it right now, and I think the calendars are doing that. It's funny because we have gotten some acclaim. We've had a lot of people give us feedback, and they have a lot of knowledge of it. And I do think that a lot of these women are saying this is a conversation that we're having.
Yeah.
So
I see a really significant movement of mentorship happening now, which we have not seen in a number of years. And I think that bearing it all without showing a thing allows people to say, it's an uncomfortable conversation. But when it's coming with spirit, it's a beautiful conversation to have.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, women in our 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, we have so many advantages in life. A lot of us are retired. If we were raising children, they've grown up. All of a sudden, we find ourselves with time on our hands and places to put it. And we can do so much at this age. We have a lot less obligations than we have had in our 20s or 30s or even 40s. And we have a lot to give.
Yeah, for sure. More than a lot to give. You are so important in creating the future for our young people. I mean, we have the ability to reframe difficult conversations so that they can be not only understood, but they can be actually seen, right? Instead of,
Exactly.
people are so visual these days. They're well, I suppose they've always been, but we're sort of tied to our phones and tied to computers and tied to different forms of social media, and there's mixed messages going out there.
That's true. And there are, there are a lot of messages out there just to sell a product. And
Absolutely.
that really is the purpose, but it can be very hard on especially young women and girls' self-esteem because there is an underlying message of whatever you naturally are isn't necessarily good enough. You have to flare it or work it or make up it or, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
that's a hard thing, to watch young girls go through, but also to be able to counteract that and say, really, they're just trying to sell you something.
Absolutely. And to sort of put a different spin on it. Do you know, the other thing is I think that I am a very proud grandmother. I am very delighted to be spending time over the Christmas holidays, squishing and loving my new granddaughter. I can't wait to see her. And because my daughter-in-law is pregnant for the third time, I am so honored that she has brought 3 children into our life. I'm like beyond in glee, right? But, you know, having these kind of conversations with her, right, and letting her understand that motherhood and, you know, the sacrifices that we make for our children and all these wonderful things actually do show up on our skin, and we don't need to hide them.
No, we don't need to hide them. And it is an interesting thing, you know, when you have a baby, you don't compare them to a teenager. They're completely different. But
Totally.
when you compare a 20-year-old woman with a 60-year-old woman, they're
Yes.
completely different.
But
So,
even in the old way of the 60-year-old, like, you know, I love my grandmother. She's been dead for a very long time. But, you know, my grandmother taught me a few very special things. Never wear beige pants without a girdle, right? You know, like always make sure that you say please and thank you. And it's okay if you want that cookie, because heaven knows that if you want the cookie, it's better to have it now than dream for it later on. So she was very good at, you know, employing the idea of enjoy. But in the old days, it was cat's eye glasses and very tight curly hair and, you know, sitting on the couch knitting. My grandmother, thankfully, was never like that. But, and I shouldn't even say thankfully. I mean, that's a beautiful thing for some families as well. But women of a certain age are not like that anymore. Most of the women that I know that are in there, some of my best friends are in their 70s and 80s. And it's like, oh my goodness, right? There is the 70 is the new 50, right? It's like 60 is the new 40.
exactly.
So how do we combat this stereotypical ageistic philosophy about aging? I mean, it's an age-old question, but how do we do that? I obviously, number one, buy a calendar. That's a good start. 25
Well,
bucks.
I mean, have the conversation, you know, it's a calendar that you can buy for an older woman, but you could also buy it for a younger woman and say, you know, I want you to understand that this is a wonderful thing, that getting older is a fabulous thing, and look at all the choices I have in life now, and here I am living my best one.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you know, it all comes from example, really.
Oh, yes. It really does come from example. I think that that's an important thing to share all the time, is that, you know, we learn by what's happening around us. And what I want people to learn right now is that it's very important to go grab a piece of paper and a pen so they can write down how they can get this calendar right away. So if you have just tuned into Act 3, we are certainly delighted that you joined us today. Thanks for being with us. I am delighted beyond compare to have Carrie Marshall. She is, what's actually your role in this, Carrie? Are you the marketing director or?
Yes, I've been here to help with marketing. I mean, we're all volunteers.
Of course.
So there we're all just giving our time. But yes, I have been here to help with the marketing and just get the word out. You know, there were a number of ladies who, when Dorothy passed, they had a lot to pick up. Even though Dorothy did so much, it was still a matter of trying to get the bank accounts up and running again, and seeing, you know, where orders were, and just in general doing all the administration. And so even by the time Thanksgiving happened, they were tired. So I had been working with the Gabriel Studio tour. We had my wife and I had a studio, so I was really busy up until Thanksgiving. And then basically the day after Thanksgiving, I went, okay, let's do some marketing. And it was good timing. So we talked to all of the charities and tried to get them to get the word out within their people. And we talked to you, and I've been lucky enough to spend a few minutes on CBC last weekend. Some may have heard about that. And, you know, in general, talking to you again.
I'm delighted that you're here for sure. And I think anybody who takes a look at this calendar and really understands the magnitude of what it brings, it will be very easy to get these calendars out the door. Very,
Yes,
very.
and we have some left. We've sold literally we've sold 80% almost, you know, coming on to 90. So we've done really, really well, but there are some left, and we would love to get them all out by Christmas or the new year.
Absolutely. So how can people do that? How can they get the calendar?
The easiest way to get a calendar is on our website, which is www.fairygoddessmothers.com. And fairy is spelled F-A-E-R-I-E. Dorothy gave us the old fairy spelling. So it's www.fairie fairygoddessmothers.com. And the other ones are all spelled regular. That is the easiest way. We're also selling them at a few stores. There's a store in Nanaimo called Big Love at the lobby of the Best Western, who's owned by a friend of mine, and we've got some online. And I've been at the farmers markets on Saturday if you happen to be coming over to Gabriola, and I'll be there tomorrow as well, and maybe next Saturday, and we're selling them in front of the local grocery store. So we've got a few places that we're selling. But if you do get it online, you can get inexpensive shipping because we have a bulk small business shipping rate. So it does make it a little cheaper to get. So,
but even so, honestly, if you're able to do that, it's worth it. I think that with the shipping was like $10 when I received it, and it came in really well packaged. It wasn't bent or damaged or anything. It was really well done. So, and I just want to remind that 100% of the proceeds from Fairy Goddess Mothers of Gabriola calendar, 100% goes directly to all those charities that we talked about earlier on in our conversation. And I'm just, so some of them have great logos, but they don't actually have pieces that I need, like the names, but you can fill in those spots. So I've got Gabriola Auxiliary for Island Healthcare Society, the Gabriola Agricultural Association Co-op, Cats Alive, the Lions Club of Gabriola Island, Gabriola Land and Trails Trust, the Gabriola Museum, Gabriola Island Land Steward Society, Gabriola Arts Council, GHS Haven Society, and Growls, Gabriola Resource of Wildlife Society. So those are the main ones that are going. And even though the proceeds are going to Gabriola for the most part, and we're broadcasting around the globe, as well as Vancouver Island and across to the Sunshine Coast, just recognizing that it doesn't matter about that. We're helping a tremendous amount of organizations. And I'm so happy to be a part of sharing your information with our community, because it's such an exquisite calendar. Like, it's so amazingly beautiful. And so again, I just want to talk about quickly, can you talk about the moons? There were, like, on each of the pages of the calendar, there's a conversation about the moon.
Well, if you're one of those people who wants to go and have a full moon ceremony, or then you can actually see it on the calendar in advance. And out on Gabriola, we do that every so often. We go out and have a full moon ceremony. So I mean,
how many women participate in the full moon ceremony? I love this idea. I think it's terrific.
It's fun.
I'm sure it's fun.
I mean, pre-COVID, there were some big numbers, and there were specific beaches. There's a few beaches that they're done at, and it was just gorgeous. And the one of the pictures from the calendar on Halloween, it's the ladies have little kind of slips on, and they're going around a fire. The moon in that calendar picture is a real one, and it is half the size of the picture.
Wow.
It's not a photoshopped moon. It's a real moon.
Incredible.
Yeah, it really is. But yes, there are some pretty cool full moon ceremonies that took place, especially pre-COVID, and would have 20, 30, 40 women drumming up the moon, and just in general giving thanks and feeling good and being happy. I mean, that's really what it's about, isn't it?
Oh, I think so. I think any which way from Sunday that we can find happiness, I'm all over that. I really am. And I think that celebrating together with like-minded women is a great way to do it, for sure. You said at the top of the hour that there's some really exciting things happening on Gabriola right now, and it's happening within the calendar itself. Would you like to share with us some of the things that have happened since we last spoke?
Well, I think that the calendar has, reached a lot of people, which has been lovely. And we've just had a lot of wonderful feedback on Gabriella and beyond. It just people going, "Oh, you're the goddess mothers," and just really having some knowledge of us. And again, we've all been talking to our adult children or adult daughters, and they're thrilled for us in general, and they want to see us continue. Basically, we have been, kind of forming a little fairy goddess mothers club, almost not really a club, but we're making plans for some more events in the future for us,
Sure.
and getting some time to enjoy ourselves, because this whole selling of the calendar can be a lot of work. So
Yeah, especially, how many did you have printed in total?
we've had 1,000 printed, and we
Wow,
have sold over 800
that's
already, and so we're
incredible.
very excited about that. We could not do that without so much support and love of the community, and we've had so many people talking about how wonderful the calendar, how wonderful the meaning of this in terms of Dorothy's life. It's so nice to see, her picture out there, and I've seen beautiful things from her family about the calendar, and it's just been a wonderful reception for this.
Yeah.
It does feel like this is the time to have that conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think right across the globe, there are many, many institutions, formalized institutions that are now saying, we've really got to debunk this aging and women process and revisit the way that we're coming together.
I think there were a few people who were surprised that these calendar pictures ended up on CBC, because
Well,
so,
even in Nanaimo and Voyager magazine,
yes, and in the Nemo and Voyager magazine, of course, yes.
okay, and in full disclosure, I write for the magazine as well.
Mhm.
But even my editor, who is amazing in every way, very, very committed to community resources,
Yep.
had to actually double check to find out whether or not that she could put the bare bottoms of women in the magazine itself. So, and it's
Yep.
interesting that we have, it seems that we can turn on the television and we can listen to profanity in so many ways and not doesn't even think about it. We can see sexualization of women and men all over, and it's no big deal. But
Nope.
yet, something so tastefully done as this, we had to step back and go, I don't know if we can print that. I don't know if we can talk about that. I mean, it's wonderful to see this conversation finally evolve.
I think so. I think so. And it's evolving with all kinds of other co-conversations, like older celebrities who are deciding not to dye their hair anymore, or people who are
Yes.
deciding to keep their natural face older in life and not do a lot of surgery, or not try to make it look younger. I think there is a celebration of aging happening right now, and you're seeing it more and more and more.
Do you think
So
part of that was due to COVID, or do you think that women, in being home for the last couple of years in a different way, do you think that we're seeing ourselves differently when we look in the mirror? And this is a compliment to it, certainly fairy goddess mothers, but just the overall presence of a woman has changed, I think, in the last couple of years. What are your thoughts on that?
well, I definitely think COVID has changed us all. I
Yeah.
think, this whole concept of us having to be forced to go sit down and not
Take a time out.
go out and keep these busy lives that we were having. You can't help but sit down and think, okay, when I get out of here, is everything going to stay the same? Are my values changing a little bit because I was denied all my normal busy activity? Do I now do I need more meaning in my life? Do I need to do what I need to do? We're seeing all these changes in the job market because of that. I think women are certainly experiencing that as well. And for me, definitely being able to have that time to just consider, what do I want to do? I mean, everything got shut down, all the plans got stopped. How about now? And for Dorothy, one of those answers was, let's go take photo shoots.
How about if we
you
done
know,
it all without showing anything? What a good idea.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a
Yeah.
wonderful thing. We had a couple of women who, I did not do this site planning, but there were women who were running around and looking at all the sites in advance. And they said, it was such a wonderful break during COVID to just have somewhere to go and something to do, even if it was just them doing it. So this was very much busy work. for all of these ladies, and just having a chance to, even though we all were very careful with COVID, being able to even get together at a distance. There were a few months when masks were required, like we followed any protocol. And I know there were a couple of pictures. My wife was in January, and she actually is beside a tree, and she had the mask in her hand behind the tree that she had just taken off. So she took her clothes off first, got in pose, and then
and then to,
and then whisked her mask off.
and even at that, the distancing,
Yeah,
like if you look
yeah,
at the pictures, there's some super social distancing with
there is.
that. I mean, there's women that have climbed trees and they're on top of
Yeah,
rocks and
just to
they're
keep
like,
them safe,
you know,
depending on when the picture was taken, because as you know, the rules continued to change
they really
as
do.
the last, 2 years progressed. So as
My,
we learned more, right?
oh, absolutely. My favorite one was when everyone is in the water, or a good bunch of you are in the water, and I'm like, that water has to be like so cold. I can't.
When you realize that the month it was taken was the month it's in is the month it was taken, then you start to recognize. And then I think it was after October, because the women went out and did October. I didn't, but my wife did October, and they were in bare feet. And
Yes.
even though there was a fire, you weren't that close to it, and it was cold. And so after that, it was okay, we're going to just wear boots for the next couple of months. And
Yeah.
so you can see those pictures of, cute little rubber boots sticking out and stuff. So, but still,
Absolutely.
just boots is still pretty cold.
Yeah. If Dorothy were alive today, what do you think that she would say about the accomplishment of all of you women?
You know what? I think she would be so satisfied.
Yeah.
For her, it was about the message, but it was also about all of us women and having that magical time together. And the calendar has just shown such beautiful shining faces, and I think that would be where she would fixate. Dorothy did a lot of adventurous things. I only knew her for a few years, and when I met her, she had already done a magazine for a number of years called True Blue Spirit, I believe,
Mhm.
all about you know spiritual types of quests. And then she had started our Nature Spirit Earth Market, which is our local health food store, with her daughter. And then she had been the canna granny after she had gotten ill and realized that CBD and cannabis was helpful. Then she was the canna granny.
Yeah. Oh no,
And
I
so
know.
she just was on adventure after adventure. It was interesting because we had 10 women get together last weekend, and we talked about when we met her, and everybody met her while she was doing a different project. But it was project after project after project that she was doing, and people kind of fell in at different times, and kind of got on the Dorothy train.
And and she had so much wisdom in everything
Oh,
that she did. I had the good fortune of interviewing her on Shaw Spotlight on my former program called Wise Folks, and we were talking about her as the canogram, right? And
yes.
she taught the audience the different types of cannabis and why one was better than another. And without a doubt, the woman had more knowledge in her hang now. She just was so well put together in that regard. And actually, for our viewers, I really encourage you to look up Dorothy online, and you will
Yes,
find all sorts of amazing things about her as well, for sure.
that's true.
And I will be sure to link her to, I'll link the former shows actually onto this website as well. So people can see it. Now, I know that for our listeners, you're driving in your car right now saying, I don't know what you're talking about as far as watching stuff. So let me just
Sure.
fill you in, of course, right? We do have a program on Act 3 on Shaw on Cable 4 all over Vancouver Island. It runs tip to tip, west to east, and a little bit over onto the Vancouver side. And we're very delighted to be able to have Act 3 televised. Our latest show is out right now, and so we're super, super glad that we're able to share the wisdom of so many people on Vancouver Island and this program. But I had a show before, and it was called Wise Folks as well. Dorothy is on that program. She did several times she was on that program, as well as on Shaw Spotlight for the show on Shaw. So I just really invite you, if you get a chance, to sort of, like I said, look her up and find out some of the amazing things that she's done aside of this extraordinary calendar. Now, when she passed away, Carrie, the calendar itself wasn't finished yet. And some of the gals that I had grown to understand and know were feeling like this project had to keep going, it had to keep on.
Right.
So there was a driving force, and I think it was her sister Patty that sort of picked up the rein. Is that right? Is that what sort of helped her complete the project, or was it a whole bunch of women that said, you know what, it doesn't matter, we're going to do this anyway?
Sorry.
No, no worries at all. Are you okay?
Totally fine. Yes.
Oh, there's nothing worse than when you feel you're coughing and you're on a radio show. So not to worry. Well, how about this? How about you grab yourself a glass of water or a breath, and while you're doing that, I will enlighten our community about some of the fabulous parts of this calendar. So Fairy Goddess Mothers of Gabriola is the outside part of the calendar. Dorothy Engst was the person who put it all together in the very beginning. She was the creative drive behind the calendar itself. And what's really exquisite about the calendar is that the calendar itself features a few amazing things. Not only does it have outstanding artwork, absolutely outstanding artwork, but it also features a moon conversation, gardening conversation, and the herb of the month as well. And it's really quite outstanding the way it's been put together. So it's not only beautiful, it's also very educational. So tell us a little bit more. Welcome back.
Actually, I know that Patty told me that before Dorothy passed, she asked her to take on the reins and continue with the calendar. So that is exactly what has been happening. And a group of women got together, and I think we all would have probably helped Dorothy anyway, because we were all prepared to move this calendar forward. And so, you know, it hasn't been easy in that, you know, you're mourning as you're doing kind of all this work, but in certain ways, I think it's made it a lot easier to keep you busy and to just put ourselves in a position where we have somewhere to channel that energy. So that's been a wonderful thing.
Yeah, no doubt. And I love the idea of channeling this positivity through the community itself. I love that you've had incredible feedback. Curious, is there any plan, since you've had such a great success so far, is there any plan to bear it all again?
You know, I would love to do it again. I'm not sure that we're going to. A lot of us have, you know, sorry.
No worries at all.
Finished for Dorothy, and you know, it is a lot of energy on this end of things, but I would love to be able to do it again. I think it would be fabulous. So
yeah, I totally understand. And it's true, you know, any of these marvelous things, they do take quite a bit to facilitate at the end of the day. You were also talking about the calendar a little bit ago when we were entertaining the conversation about the solar events, seniors, seasonal festivals that happen. And I wonder if you could just speak a little bit to the creation of this addition to the calendar.
Isn't that a wonderful piece? That was done by a local artist named Carol Weaver. And she worked with Dorothy directly. She put up a beautiful kind of description on Facebook about how they spent many times together. The fawn in the picture is, the picture of the fawn is a real fawn that I think goes into her backyard. And
how wonderful.
Kind of made, yeah, she's kind of made, I won't say friends with, but she sees quite often. And so, you know, Carol or Weaver, depending on whether you know her or not. She often goes by Weaver. She just does such gorgeous things and beautiful artwork. And we were so lucky to have her do this insert. It's fabulous. So
yeah, no kidding. And it's really such a beautiful extra bonus to it, especially it sort of looks as if it's got the Celtic flair to it. Is that right?
Yes, well, she does have a Celtic flair to most things that she does. She is a drum maker, and she makes rattles and different types of drums, and then does a certain amount of artwork as well. And oh, just she does exquisite work and is a very spiritual woman. So
Well, you can see throughout the calendar that the spirituality element is very strong. It's by no means is it religious in any way, but you can tell that, you know, with the joy of the fairies going through. And I just have to ask, from a calendar perspective, and for yourself as helping to promote and support it, did you ever think that you were a fairy girl? Like, were you a girl that liked that mythical, fabulous sort of genre?
Well, you know, I was a bit of a bigger fan of Tinkerbell than Cinderella, because it seemed to me like Tinkerbell had a better life.
Yeah, she could fly. She could
Wasn't-
fly, and poor Cinderella had to scrub floors.
Yeah, I wasn't. And then the concept that marrying someone was going to, you know, make everything.
Yeah, no, so
You know,
true.
yeah,
So
I
true.
kind of was a bit of a fairy girl myself, and
Yeah.
I love that idea of you know, being able to just, you know, it is such a magical concept, right? I didn't think I was going to be a fairy, but I'm pretty happy to be one.
No doubt, hey. And
Yeah.
I'm not a fairy. I didn't pose for any of this, and I don't even know if I could have the courage or would have the courage to do it. But I can tell you one thing for sure. I agree with you. I love the idea of Tinkerbell and the idea that all your dreams can come true if you just free yourself up a little bit. I think that women as a whole, we have been conditioned for so long to have certain roles and responsibilities, and that's what we've done. And it's so amazing to me every time somebody breaks out of that cycle and becomes all they're meant to be. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that it's just been such a treat to be part of this. It's been a wonderful ride, and I have loved it. And you know, it's so exciting. I know that Dorothy would have loved this. Um,
Yes.
and to have her leave this for us is even better. You know, it gives us a chance to do all these great fun things. I know she would have been having this interview with her, or maybe I would have been sitting beside her or something to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah. I can actually see her speaking through this for sure. I
Yeah.
can feel the positive energy. I had the privilege of knowing her relatively well. At least I think I knew her relatively well. And to me, she was always such a beautiful inspiration, right from her beautiful blue hair down to her teeny tiny little person. I mean, she really was a fairy in so many ways. And I love that she created a concept on Gabriola as well about the health, her belief in the best of your health, right? So she did have an incredible store. And you said it was she and her daughter. Is her daughter still running the store? Is the store
Yes.
still open?
Hmm. Her
Oh,
daughter
good.
still runs the store, and it is still open. Wonderful store. Go
Yeah.
there quite frequently myself. And yes, they run a lot of health food and supplements and organic foods and farmers market foods and old-fashioned bread that you can buy that comes directly from a local bakery. So they really add a lot of value, I think, to life on Gabriola.
Yeah, no kidding. Gabriola is a very beautiful and unique place, without a doubt. And certainly this calendar illustrates some of the more beautiful spots on the island as well. From a perspective of the calendar itself, because there are 12 or 13. Did she go to the following year? Is it 13? Or
You
is it
got a
Yes,
13th
she
month
did.
in.
It's a 13th month
Yeah.
calendar, the final one being for January next year as
Yes.
well. I'm curious, of all 13 pages, where 13 calendar shoots, which was your favorite? Do you have a
You
favorite?
know, it's funny because oh, I like the ones that I was in, but I actually really love the one with the teacups, which I was not in, and I
Oh,
don't even
yes,
remember
the
what month that is.
teacups.
Hmm.
Yes, the teacup one is really beautiful.
And you know why? Because the look on the women's faces are so, it's like they've all got a big secret.
Yes.
And I think that's a
Like
little
that.
bit about, you know, taking all your clothes off. It does make you feel like you've got a bit of a secret.
Well, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I mean, because you just don't normally bury yourself in that way, right? So it's just,
Yes, there's the teacup one.
and I think what's beautiful about it is, again, everyone's got their little teacup. They've all got their wings and they're sitting in the bush and different hiding in little nooks and corners.
Yeah.
And while everybody is nude, you don't see a thing. Like you don't see
You don't see a thing.
It's just so
I
beautiful.
know these could be little prim and proper ladies wearing, high collared tops, but instead they've only got the teacup.
I have to say that I think that my favorite was June 2022. And I think
Yes.
I love
June is
June is
beautiful.
because,
Mhm.
I love to have I love to feel the warmth on my skin, right?
Mhm.
And I can only imagine that these women, juxtaposed against the winter cold and the other months, were
Mhm.
suddenly like, oh, I feel great and warm. And here I am, under the heavens, really just
You
relaxing
know,
with my friends.
it, every shoot was really magical, honestly. I mean, Dorothy would say that, but it was so true. You'd go in there and, they didn't take a long time. Literally, it was find your spot and then everybody, toss off your clothes and run to that spot. Sometimes it was for the right moon or for the right light or, depending on what we were looking for. And there's just this magic that would exude. And every time Dorothy would say, "This has just fed my soul for another month," she would
Oh,
she would thank us all for all of the wonderful feelings. And you could see that when I visited her outside of the shoots, she would just say, I just feel like this is just feeding my health. This is feeding my, my joy. And she was right. It really did feed all of our joy. So
well, it fed my joy to receive it. I know that every dollar goes to a good cause in community, and I just love the idea that women can be so beautifully empowered in so many ways. Once again, how would you like to tell our listeners and our viewers how can they get a copy? This limited left supply. There's
there are
only
limited supplies left. It's www.fairygoddessmothers.com, spelled Faerie. And you go right on the site and you can pay with your Visa. You can have it delivered directly to yourself or to someone else. It's probably less expensive if you're giving a gift long distance. And it's an inexpensive gift at $25. It's a great thing to give someone that you might not have a huge amount for, and they can get it directly to their home. So it's so easy too, because you don't have to do much work. And then once you've purchased your calendar, there's a little place on the website where you can look at all the charities and you can see an about of all the charities that we're donating to. And then you can select which one you want the money to go to. So that's an extra special thing that, depending on I've seen everybody pick different charities depending on where their interests are, and they get a little choice. And then if you don't make a choice, there's going to be a huge percentage that will just get portioned out to all the charities. So
everybody on the charity list is going to get a little something.
exactly.
And that's the key. There's 12 charities. I think 1, 2,
12
3,
charities.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 12 charities that
Yes.
you can choose from. And, and all of them, every single one of them is worthy of your dime. Please make sure that you purchase one of these calendars for yourself, for your loved ones, for the people within community. And let's pay homage to the incredible good vision of a woman who is no longer walking with us in this realm of the planet, but is flying over above with her wand, wishing us all a strong and healthy new year for sure. As we're getting ready to close the program, it's been my privilege to have Carrie Marshall as our guest on Act 3. You're listening to CHLY 101.7 FM. You need to go to Fairy Goddess Mothers of Gabriola, to the website. You need to order a calendar right now.
That's right.
We're speaking, and make sure that you choose the charity of your choice. As we're closing out of the program, my favorite part. All of my listeners know the favorite part of the show, because, I really believe in sharing the wisdom. Through all of this, not so much about Dorothy or the fairy, the calendar, or all of that, but really more along the line of your experience with this undoubtedly amazing initiative. What did you learn the most out of it?
I think what I'm taking away from this is it now is the time to have that communication between the generations, to your smaller grandchildren or to your grandparents, about healthy aging and about feeling good as we age. That we can make our choices and feel great as we're turning into older ladies or gentlemen. I think that now's the time for that conversation. So whether or not you purchase a calendar, it's a great start to that conversation. It's a great leaping off point. But maybe you do want to have that conversation with your children, your grandchildren, or your grandparents over the holidays, saying, thanks so much for that healthy aging grandma, or isn't it wonderful that when I'm that age, I'm going to feel that good. So
Yeah.
that's for me, my wisdom of the day.
Well, you taught me something today, and that's a wonderful thing to be able to remind our community that, as we get older, we become more beautiful all the time. And I have to say, Carrie Marshall, you are an absolutely beautiful soul. And I'm so grateful that you were able to share Dorothy's dream on this program today and continue to share the dream walking ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to go get this calendar one more time. How can people get it, Carrie?
www.fairygoddessmothers.com. FAERIE. Thank you so much, Kathy. And thank you, Act 3, for all of your support.
You are very welcome. And thank you for being with us today. Well, that does it for this episode of Act 3. Once again, we have a mission for you to do, and that mission is to go and get one of these calendars so that you can inspire some of the beautiful women in your life. Every single time that we demyth the aging conversation, we grow to be a stronger and more universal, more accepting, more intelligent community. So let's work together on making sure we can do that every single day of our lives. For now, tune in next time. We'll see you next week on Act 3. Thanks again for joining us and enjoy your day.